Hey everyone, Works here. So I wanted to do a video on the feral druid tree, not because anything has changed. Unfortunately, that is not the case, but I've been seeing some videos and some talks from a lot of ferals that I follow on social medias, obviously Cybear, but many others that, a lot of people don't know about because they're not as prominent. But what I wanted to do was kind of talk about the feral druid tree and how they can make what I think are the adjustments that need to be made in order to make this tree a little bit better feeling overall. And then we'll also talk, of course, about the spec tree, which I have a lot of thoughts on, and I think is fairly important to discuss as well. Now, this doesn't go into everything that I think needs to quote unquote fix feral, because I think there is more work that needs to be done to the spec just on a baseline method. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was just kind of going over like the current idea of the build plus what I think needs to be changed. So real quick, we're just going to dive in, grab Swipe, Killer Instinct, grab the 3 Moonkin talents. You're going to grab, this is for a pure raid build, by the way, Feline Swiftness, Tiger Dash, or Wild Charge, doesn't freaking matter. Astral Influence, you're going to grab Primal Fury, you grab Soothe and Stampeding Roar so you can get down to Lakara's teachings. And then kind of here you have a little bit of flexibility in what you think you can get in terms of needing. If you need if a fight has an interrupt, you grab Skull Bash. You can grab Sunfire with Sunfire AoE if you have a fight that has multiple mobs. I'm also just going to go ahead and grab an Iron Fur and 1 point in Thick Hide to go along with these 2 points here. Actually, if it's pure raid, we'll do single target. So Sunfire only. And then, of course, at the bottom of the tree, we grab Lakara's Teachings and Renewal. Now, this to me is kind of like what I assume is the core base of the tree that gives us 7 points that we can spend around as we need to. The problem is that there's not really anything good to spend them on. So something like Tireless Pursuit, I think, is something that should just be baked into Feline Swiftness. Because this is like a finesse conduit that nobody uses right now in Shadowlands. Baking it into Feline Swiftness, I think, would be a much better idea. Killer Instinct and Nurturing Instinct on the other side being 3-point talents this high up in the tree, I don't think is good. I think to see them reduced by a point down to 2, that opens up a couple points in the tree to get some more interesting things. And then we look at the bottom half of this tree, I think it really fails Feral Druid in a pretty severe way. So Mighty Bash is fine, single target stun. You can get maim for that and do damage with it. So Mighty Bash is a second single target stun if you need it for any reason, but if you need a single target stun, you just get maim and it works out better. Now this doesn't cost any combo points, but like it has a 1 minute cooldown, whereas maim is only a 20-second cooldown. So like your stun is going to be up way more often if you need maim. So Mighty Bash being here feels really bad for Feral, and Incap Roar requires bear form. So you have to shift out and lose damage in order to do these 2 types of things, whereas like bears lose nothing on either of them. So something that I think could happen here is make Incap Roar usable in cat form. I think that makes Incap Roar a little bit better. Or move this more central and maybe have it switch places with like Ursine Vigor. Or move Ursine Vigor further up, like right in here. Whatever the case may be. Like there's some adjustments that can be made. But this side of the tree does nothing for Feral. Okay, Well-Honed Instincts is a little bit of a defensive. Pure is like the shittiest capstone talent in the class trees, in my opinion, of all the ones that we've seen. Fear should move up here to where Tireless Pursuit is at, and you can put something in here. Now, one of the things that we've noticed about classes that fill multiple roles, so you're looking at Shaman, you're looking at Evoker, to a lesser extent DK. DK trees are kind of a Blue Moon type situation with the way their trees are developed, but Shaman and Evoker, kind of the most prominent ones. Priest to a lesser extent, is that their capstones are all utility based. So if you want to replace Fear, move because you move Fear up here, move Tireless Pursuit into the Feline Swiftness, Leader of the Pack. No, that's something that everyone's been asking about for a long time. Gives Guardian and Feral Druid party synergy. I think that would be a good choice. You could also go dipping back into something of bygone eras that I wasn't really involved with and do something on that side. The other thing that I don't like about this tree is that you have to get AoE CC to get single target utility in Innervate and Nature's Vigil. I think this is probably not the worst choice. You're most likely taking Ursols in most cases, and then in raid you're grabbing Innervate and Nature's Vigil, because these are just going to be very valuable in raid. In Mythic Plus, it depends on mana usage, but if you have like a Mistweaver Monk, Innervate might be useful. I don't know what Preservation Evoker's mana usage is like, but a lot of other healers just have a ton of ways to manage their own mana to where Innervate's not going to be useful, so you miss out on Nature's Vigil. You know, Heart of the Wild is still kind of Heart of the Wild. At least there's more clarification on what each one does. So you get 30% magical damage and Star Surge is instant. You know, you have a choice with like CC and Mythic Plus for Skull Bash, Typhoon, Hibernate might be useful. You know, so you have some options here to go with, but like this is too many points to play with for something that isn't very, like, where most of the options are either CC options, or you spend 3 points to get Remove Corruption if you need a Cursed / Poison Dispel, and then you can get like Hibernate and Typhoon, and that would be 5 of your last 6 points, and then maybe you grab Skull Bash. Like that would be kind of like the Mythic Plus build, which isn't terrible, but I don't think is all that great either. So like you just not really have great options as Feral. You're very, very limited in what it feels like you can get, because the utility that's on the table is niche in some ways. So I think to me the biggest problems with this tree are Tireless Pursuit not being baked into Feline Swiftness and Fear being the capstone. And these 2 choice nodes kind of feeling limiting in a way, because you're getting AoE to grab single target, or you grab things that require you to shift out of your main form in order to do short CCs, you know, a 4-second stun or a 3-second stun, only to follow up with a decent but not great defensive and one of the shittiest talents in any tree. So I'd like to see those changes being made to Feral Druid. And then in the class tree, I think this thing needs to be wholly redesigned. So if you look at all of the other class trees, you know, let's look at Shaman, for example, because those are like right now, those are the best class trees that we have. Enhancement, very distinct playstyles built into it. Elemental, very distinct playstyles built into it. Even Unholy, even though they're getting kind of reworked because of they want to change the way cooldowns work for that spec. Even the current form of the tree has, you know, good single target options with like Summon Gargoyle, Army of the Damned in the middle, kind of a good general catch-all option, and then you have like Unholy Assault, Festering Wound builds that are going to be really good for AoE. Like even that tree that's getting completely reworked because of new cooldown timings has good, you know, has distinct playstyles in this. The Feral tree feels like it is all over the place. Like we don't know, like single target nodes are combined with AoE nodes. There's one major problem distinction in the middle of the tree that really hurts Feral AoE. The top of the tree feels very weak, like it doesn't have a lot in terms of main throughput. Like the spec just feels like it's lacking a ton of stuff in this tree that provides potential for good gameplay styles. Now, I didn't play this form of Feral, but a lot of people talk about like 725 and 735 Feral, which had very distinct play styles. You had a bleed spinning plate type build, plus sort of a more spammy builder spender, ferocious bite, brutal slash type based build. Even going back to that, I think gives Feral Druid a good distinction, because like right now Feral Druid is basically Assassination Rogue without all the control and CC that Rogue brings to the table. Now you're like, oh, but Assassination only plays one way. Yes, but Assassination has 2 other specs that give it completely different playstyles. Yes, you could say Feral does the same, but you know, we're talking melee versus melee. You know, Enhance has different playstyles in it. DKs have different playstyles in it. Warriors have different playstyles built into the class. You know, basically all the other melee. We don't know about Monk or Red Paladin yet, but I imagine that there's going to be some things that will focus single target AoE. Like, this tree doesn't have it. The other thing is that Berserk needs to be rethought. So let's talk about it a little bit more. Tiger's Fury, perfectly fine. Here you have a 3-point node to give you, this says 3, but I think it's 30 more max energy. 3 points to get increased energy, whereas like Runic Power in the Frost tree is only a 2-point commitment. You have, I think in the Rogue trees, more energies, very small commitment. This is a bloated pick for the sake of adding points to the tree. Same goes for the Tiger's Fury situation. 3 points to get 30 extra energy. It should just be 15 and 30. By cutting away points from this, and in my opinion, you probably should just remove this talent completely, you all of a sudden make the investment at the top of the tree a lot less. So you're going to want improved Tapestry, you're going to want Omen of Clarity, improve Shred. I wish Sabretooth would just disappear out of the game completely because it removes gameplay in order to maintain, in order to do more damage. Like, I hate this talent. I hate it with a passion. It just annoys me. So I'm going to take Predator so I don't have to look at its freaking logo. You know, and then of course you get your Shred and Swipe deal more damage. You get your Rake, you know, Shred and Rake bonuses. That gives you 8 points while skipping Scent of Blood and skipping the max energy. That's fine. I think the top of this tree is pretty much okay. You can get Scent of Blood for AoE purposes. I still don't know why they're trying to make this a thing, but that's where we're at. So where I think the problems in this tree come are right here. So you have Sudden Ambush. You know, so finishing moves give you, again, at 3-point investment in the middle of the tree. So that's now 4 3-point nodes. And if you look at it, we're getting, you know, that's 12 points that you can invest there, plus an additional 6 here. Like, from a point standpoint, this tree probably needs thinning out a little bit, but overall it's okay. The problem is how this is laid out. So we get Sudden Ambush, which is fine. Taste for Blood, which is fine. The problem is right here. Primal Wrath, Brutal Slash, and Berserk, and to a lesser extent Mock. So this Berserk talent basically means that when you do a 5-point finishing move, you're going to get 2 combo points back. Great. Allows for more finisher spam. The problem is that just means more ferocious bite spam, because Rip is the only other cooldown. Maybe Savage Roar if you want to talent into it, but it takes a lot for Savage Roar to be good. So basically, your cooldown is basically saying, hey, you are now basically going to spam like 2 moves. The other thing that I have a problem with is Primal Wrath and Brutal Slash being here. Now, Brutal Slash still replaces Swipe. Brutal Slash is also deals damage beyond 5 targets. Swipe is uncapped. So in order to get down this side of the tree, which has some good stuff in it, you have to, as for AoE purposes, like Survival Instincts, good. Frenzy Band, good. Apex Predators, good. Soul of the Forest, very good. Circle of Life and Death, good. Cat's Eye Curio, fine. It's okay. But like, there's some good talents down in here. The only way to effectively get to all of them is to gimp your AoE entirely. What they need to do is take Brutal Slash and Primal Wrath, stick it right here with Berserk Relentlessness, and make it a choice node. And then have it branch off down to this side, and straight down. Now, what about these 2 talents? You remove Infected Wounds. This is a joke. This has no business being in the tree and should just be baseline part of Rake. No reason for this to be this deep in the talent and be the only connection that you can get to the bottom of the tree for Convoke. This is a joke and is insulting. So what you do is you move Berserk down to where Moment of Clarity is at, move Moment of Clarity down to where Infected Wounds is at, and branch Berserk off so that it can get to both sides of the tree as well. So you can skip Moment of Clarity down here, and then also still be able to get to Ire Fear for Symmetry from Survival Instincts or from Predatory Swiftness, whatever the case may be. And you find some new talents. If you have to feel like you have to put something here, you find some new talents. Do something that increases, like, you know, on this side, you can do something that increases, like, Thrash's damage. Even something simple as that. Make Thrash worth casting. And over here, you can do something that does, like, hey, if you have Rake, Thrash, and Rip on a target, Shred does, like, has a higher crit chance. Whatever the case may be. Something... Smarter ferals than me can tell you what to do, but this right here needs to be a choice node. That way, when you come into this part of the tree, you can say, I'm building AoE, I'm building single target. The other thing that needs to happen with this tree, Predatory Swiftness needs to be baseline to cat form. Put in an improved cat form for all I care. That gives you another 15% movement speed, because right now Feline Swiftness is 30%. I think it needs to stay 30%. You know, maybe PvP is the reason that it's only 15 right now, but you do an improved cap form that does, like, a 1-point talent can go right here as an example that bakes Predatory Swiftness into improved cap form and gives you more movement speed. I think that would be good. Survival Instincts probably could go a little bit further up in the tree. Infected Wounds just needs to disappear. So here's my other problem with Berserk. Here's where Berserk is at. So you get your combo points. Jungle Stalker is garbage. Make this the current 4-piece bonus. Sickle of the Lion, and it needs to move further up in the tree. It doesn't need to be off on its own corner here in a complete diamond shape away from everything else. Like, you shouldn't, like, no other spec is having to invest so much just to make their one main cooldown good. Like, Ferals have to invest a ton just to make their Berserk good. 28 points. Now I can't get Blood Talons because I can't get a full Carnivorous Instinct. I can barely get Circle of Life and Death and Soul of the Forest, but I can't get Apex Predator's Craving because I have to invest so heavily in order to get, you know, even Incarn you can take away, or all of a sudden now you can get this, go from there. The other thing, Blood Talons needs to be more central to the tree. You know, maybe you switch Blood Talons and Infected Wounds if you are absolutely convinced that you have to have Infected Wounds in the tree. Blood Talons needs to be here. And Feral Frenzy, frankly, like, that choice node just needs to be moved and swap places with. Because Blood Talons is so key to Feral's damage dealing profile. Sticking it off in this corner, where if you want to invest in getting Apex Predator, Soul of the Forest, Circle of Life and Death, that you simply cannot do it, is bad. Blood Talons is so important to Feral gameplay, and it needs to be moved more central into the tree. Because, like, right now, look, I can go get Circle of Life and Death, you know, let me take away Jungle Stalker because it's bad, you know, but, like, this is the tree and I can't even get Blood Talons because I have to invest a point into Infected Wounds for AoE. I have to put a point in Brutal Slash to gimp my AoE builder. Like, so the summary of the Feral tree is they need to remove a couple talents. They need to thin the tree at the top with these top nodes up here. Probably just get rid of the max energy and rethink this. They need to rethink Berserk and all the talents they want in it. I think Jungle Stalker is the prime candidate to disappear and make it Sickle of the Lion. So you get Berserk Relentlessness, Berserk Frenzy, Berserk Sickle. And that allows AoE focused aspect of Berserk. Frenzy just allows, you know, is it good AoE focus, and then Relentless gives like extremely good single target and passable enough AoE. You need to talent node, you need to choice node Primal Wrath and Brutal Slash because they cannot work together. You cannot have them in the same build and make it function. You just can't. I think it needs to be a choice. Infected Wounds needs to go, just be baselined into Rake. Alright, here's the other thing. I have Fearful Symmetry and Berserk Relentlessness basically makes it so that you're gonna be just spamming Ferocious Bite for like 4 straight abilities. Or 2 straight abilities. Because like you Tiger's Fury, you get, okay, you're gonna get 2 combo points. You then immediately Berserk. You build the 5 combo points, you bite, that's 4 combo points spent. Returned. So you bite again, that's 4 combo points spent again. You build up, you bite again, you're getting 2 combo points back for this duration. So like, I don't mind that type of synergy. What I do mind is the fact that there's only one choice to spend it on. And it's Ferocious Bite. Maybe Primal Wrath and AoE. But for the most part, it's Ferocious Bite. Which leads me to kind of some of the things that I want to see fundamentally done on the level for Feral to get taken care of. They need to give Feral some distinct playstyles and not just copy Assassination Rogue and reskin it, because that's what it's doing right now. Except Assassination Rogue has things like Cut to the Chase and Slice and Dice, which give you, you know, a way to extend a maintenance utility buff, not a prime DPS spec ability like Rip is, and what Sabretooth does. On the whole, I think Feral needs to have either a choice of a spinning plate gameplay that can be really good in AoE, that allows you to, you know, and on kind of like high mobility fights in Raid, where you're going to have a lot of moving around, but not necessarily a lot of target switching. So a fight that I can think of is like Jailer. You know, if you played a spinning plate build on that, you get hit with every mechanic, and you have to run out. Even on heroic, you're thinking, okay, I got to run out for bombs. You got to run out for the spread. You might have, you know, you have to run around and cover, like, you know, the Azeroth wounding. Like, there's a lot of movement inside the jailer fight where, like, that splitting plate build could work very well. But then you have a fight like Desagne, where you have some target switching, or there's like some multi-target cleave, or Artificer Zymox, where Artificer basically goes immune for a little bit and you have to kill all the ads where there's target switching involved. Well, Feral doesn't ramp up well in those target switching situations, so maybe that's where you play a more spammy builder spender style build that focuses a lot more on Ferocious Bite and Shred, Thrash, you know, to a lesser extent Thrash, you know, where maybe you like, all right, hey, look, I'm putting up Rake, Rip, and Thrash because this means that Shred and Ferocious Bite are going to do more. Whereas in the other one, it's like, look, I'm only using Shred to activate Blood Talons because I want to focus a lot more on Thrash, on Rake, on Rip, on Frenzy, on getting the extra 2 bleeds inside of my Berserk cooldown, and how do I maintain and snapshot all 5 of those dots. And maybe a Savage Roar comes into play there as well, where you're just trying to juggle a lot of plates and maintain a lot of different buffs, where something all of a sudden now like Sabretooth maybe becomes a little bit better because it's like, okay, I've got like 5 plates that I'm trying to juggle. I know that every now and then I could switch to this one where Rip, Rake, Thrash are your main damage profiles, and you're not doing like 60% Ferocious Bite damage like you do now. So that's just my thoughts on the Feral tree. I think it needs to be reconsidered, redesigned, and I think the spec probably needs to be considered for a change in identity and a heavy consideration for what does Blizzard want the spec to be? Because Assassination Roguelite to me isn't the answer. It needs to be something that is distinct on its own. There's not a lot of high uptime specs. You know, Assassination Rogue is kind of like the best one. Unholy to a lesser extent is, but even then, you know, you need to stick for your wound popping. But like Assassination Rogue is kind of like the only spec that has like that high uptime. But even then, you're not using your bleeds a ton because yeah, you Garrote on cooldown, you Rupture to maintain, but so you have to spend 15 seconds away from the boss and all those fall off. Damage falls off a cliff. I'd like Feral to maybe be a spec that can say, hey, I have to run away from a boss for a while, but I've set myself up so that I still have damage ticking no matter what. And I can get back in quickly with Wild Charge, with Stampeding Roar, with Tiger Dash, or with regular dash, and my extra 30% movement speed. Plus, if I like shift out of cat form for a second, I get 40% movement speed as I am running away from a mechanic to like throw a quick rejuve on myself if I went into rejuve. Or hey, I have to run away from this boss, and I'm going to switch into Boomkin form so I can Moonfire, Starfire, Wrath, Star Surge, all that stuff, because I have to be away from the boss for an extended period of time. All of a sudden, like, that gives Ferals a much more clear niche, and they just don't have one right now. Anyways, if you're a Feral fan or a Feral lover, I would love to get your thoughts on what you think could be done with this tree and what could be done to the spec in general. Comment below. I'd love to hear it. I want to get involved in the conversation. Feral's always been a spec that I've had a soft spot for. Guardian and Feral both, because they've always kind of been neglected in a way. And I want to see these 2 specs in particular succeed because I think it makes the Druid class stronger as a whole, and I think it makes the game stronger as a whole. So that wraps up this video. Thank you for sticking around if you stuck around to this 24-minute point or so right now. So until the next video, I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all enjoying your gaming. You have fun, and I will see you all in the next video.